Hello everybody, welcome back to the Trackmania games. We are going underway with our final tech solo game of the day very shortly, and then we'll have to get the rest done later on because we've got bigger fish to fry after that one. Well, maybe not bigger, but different fish to fry, and we are going for a lower bracket game once again on this one, and we have Legion joining us for this. So first off, Legion, I mean, you were watching in the sidelines for that last game. What are your thoughts so far for I mean, Team GB? It's getting a little tough right now.
I am ready to see what else this bracket has to offer, not just the upper, but the lower, because we are getting to the part of this tournament where we are cutting out the fat. We are getting only the best of the best, and we're putting them all in the same server together. So if anything, I mean, if that match was chaotic, I can only imagine what the rest of this this run's going to look like.
Yeah, formal look. You've been going for a while. Maybe not always on this broadcast, but look, hey, look, we're gonna let you go very shortly, so you might as well get your final thoughts in, right? I mean, look, hey, we might as well reveal what game we are watching in this one. It is going to be the quarterfinal loser 3 game, which is Miquatro, Paul, Epos, and Jadon. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm glad I was able to stay up long enough to watch a potential double UK elimination. It makes everything worth it to get to this stage. But no, I'm kind of going to piggyback off what Legion was saying. We're now at the stage of the tournament where every single lower bracket match is going to see a big name fall. We're here. This is the cream of the crop. So I'm keen for this. I have high hopes that Paul is going to show us something special. He out-survived fellow Portuguese member Pika, even though they were in different heats, and this is his moment. This is his time to make a name for himself.
Well, Jiggy, do you share that sentiment? I want to get your input on this one. I know everybody, look, I like bashing Team GB as much as the next person, but
I don't deny the fact that Paul is definitely going to have a time to shine moment, and Paul could definitely be a pocket pick. I would be saying upset city if Epos gets out of this one. I'll be real for a second. I mean, you're dealing with an absolute monster of Trackmania, like the monster of Trackmania in the current present time. And it's a bit of a toss-up between... Well, I think Paul has his chances. Miquatro has his chances. Jadon, I hope he can mount the fight back because that was a rough quarterfinal that he had to go through. So yeah, I would lock in Epos P1, but the rest is kind of up in the air, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Epos manages to get... I mean, there's a very distinct possibility somehow that Epos manages to get first in both tech and mixed. We hope there might be some variation in that one, and he is in the lower bracket, of course, so very possible chance that he does get knocked out at some point, even if it's not in this lobby here. But yeah, Team GB having a difficult time. I mean, Wizzy is down in the lower bracket as well. We're not going to be watching that game, but I assume Spammy is going to be watching that, considering the 2 Dutch men in there. And yeah, I think this should be a really exciting one, right? There is the possibility, as you guys say, for an upset. I'm going to get some official predictions. We'll start from left to right. G-Geek, I mean, you already kind of gave your thoughts, but let's just lock in the 2 you think are going through in what position.
Okay, lock in Epos P1. That's without a question. As for P2, I would like to give the edge to, I would say Miquatro. It's a bit of an unknown variable for me for Paul. So that's why I would give Miquatro the edge, but I would be happy to be proven wrong. So Miquatro P2, just gonna have to see what happens.
All right, Legion, you're 1 and 2.
The same as G. I think Epos P1, Miquatro P2. Although I think maybe Jadon could upset Miquatro a little bit. It's not 100% guaranteed, of course, but I think there is some room for Jadon to kind of just get a shoulder in, and then from there just slowly kind of unjam Miquatro from that spot. But I think for the most part, Epos, Miquatro 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think I kind of have to agree. I would love to be all Team GB about this and go Jadon second, but from what I saw in the last game, some changes are going to have to be made in terms of the consistency there for Jadon. You know, this is going from the frying pan into the fire for him, a difficult lobby into another difficult lobby. So it's possible, but I do think I agree. Epos and then Miquatro, and finally, Formal, your final take on this game.
I'm shaking my head, and you put me in this horrible position because like everyone's taking the safe picks, right?
Oh.
Now I can't. And I have
you
to look. No, I can't. All right. No. I look at the Australian flag and I look up in that top left corner and I see a Union Jack. And now I'm thinking, I wanted to see Team GB go out. It's going the other way this time. EPOS P1, Jadon P2, upsetting Miquatro. Even though we highlighted him at the start of the day, we highlighted him because he hasn't been performing, and now he chokes. So give me the GB sweep.
All right, well, the Commonwealth are so back, baby. I'm going to pass it over now to G-Geek and Legion and say goodbye to you, Formal, as we get into our final tech solo game of the day. You guys have fun, and goodbye, Formal.
And with that, the game is already underway. We don't even have time to get a little bit of a pregame talk between ourselves because the game is indeed underway. We're starting off on Magneton from Mephisto, and we're already seeing something going haywire, and it will be Jadon, the first one to suffer, with a very hefty clip on the way towards checkpoint number 1 and 2.
Yeah, in the last match, Jadon seemed to be a little shaky on this map, so I think that Ghost is kind of coming back to haunt him a little bit. Hopefully he's got something cooking up, though, because these guys are just going to get firing on all cylinders right away, and you can see that with Epos and Miquatro only separated by about 400ths of a second. Paul, despite being at what is probably his best at the moment, he's still a quarter second back, so this is, at least for our predictions, G-Geek, this is looking very good as Miquatro gets the overtake on Epos.
But again, even though it looks very good for our predictions, this is only the opening round, and things can shift very, very rapidly in terms of momentum and in terms of various events that can unfold during the subsequent rounds. But so far, it will be Miquatro locking in the first 10-pointer with a 55.235, 2/10 clear of Epos. Paul in third, and Jadon with that unfortunate touch before checkpoint number 1 and 2 will be falling down to fourth, over a second down. As we go on to round number 2, everybody makes the start clean. Jadon this time sprinting away with the lead, but will he be able to hold it up until the bitter end? And will he be able to clear some of the pain points that Magneto has been reserved for him?
Well, it's one thing to get out to the lead right away, but it's another thing to maintain that as you get towards that finish line. And right now, we are seeing a bit of a push here coming in from Miquatro and Epos. Paul being the loser here right now, but they're still keeping it incredibly close. Less than a 1/10 of a second from first to third as Miquatro starts to make a move, and so does Epos down the inside. The two Union Jacks flying ahead of the Finn, looking for any sort of, and he almost grazes the wall there, Miquatro, but Epos and Jadon staying strong there in P number 1 through this drift. A couple different lines as Miquatro clips the wall, and Jadon's going to take a move on Epos, but it's not going to be enough as Epos gets 10 points, a 55.09, and Jadon having to settle for 6, but Miquatro, unfortunate ending there from what could have been potentially a second down to fourth with one little wall clip.
Yeah, unfortunately for Miquatro, he's not going to be the only one to have fallen foul of that little corner before checkpoint now. A very common shock point there here on Magneton as we go to round number 3, and the Finn will be looking to try and right the wrongs of that round and try to actually get back in the groove and try to get some more points going into the bankroll for him on this particular match as we go into round number 3. Paul getting a great start, leading at the end of sector number 1, goes a bit wide on the entry towards checkpoint number 4, and he will see the rest of the field catch back up to him. 43 milliseconds between first and fourth as we go into checkpoint 5, then the run to checkpoint 6, and unfortunately we got too tight on the side of Jadon, hitting the wall before crossing the checkpoint, and that is one key contender out of the running. Paul, another key contender out of the running as well. 1.5 seconds down, he made a mistake that we may not have completely caught on camera. Epos sprinting away in the lead ahead of Miquatro by a 1/10 of a second as we go towards the critical part here of checkpoint number 9. That long multi-apex left-hander where you can clip the walls, and clip the walls Miquatro does, and thus he will be dropping down to P2 perennially. 55.092, almost dipping into the 54s. We're getting there slowly but surely. Miquatro a full second and 2/10 down. Epos the only one to not have put a foot wrong so far in the last few rounds of thereabouts. Despite only collecting 6 points in the first round, it is looking like a very solid haul of points for the Brits.
And this just goes to show you how much these guys are willing to risk. And yes, it is the lower quarterfinals. For some of these guys, I'm sure they're expecting to go through, but for the others, it is last chance. And we're only 4 rounds in, we're already seeing how much these guys are willing to risk and how close they're willing to get to those walls to maximize the speed that they carry through and on exit. And right now you have seen that, for the most part, Epos has been getting it right. It's not just about being quick, it is also about being consistent. It's one thing to set a world record, but it's kind of pointless if you can't even get within, I don't know, maybe a few tenths of that in later rounds. But right now, Epos continuing to do what he does best, leading the way. McQuattro, everybody has gotten the map incredibly well except for Paul just then, grazing that wall. And McQuattro as well, the second round in a row that he's clipped that wall there, and he is going to drop down to third. Oh, no, he isn't. He's going to actually stay in second, so lucky for him. And Paul struggling to get to the end, but he does manage to make it just in time. But Epos, 36 points in that first map, and Paul already looking to get out of this map at least.
Yeah, he's breathing a sigh of relief that the map is over, and I was just looking at some of the match rounds and the round times. Epos had a slight slump, maybe. Well, I say slump, with very, very big air quotes. 55.4, second place in the first round, 2 tens down on McQuattro, but then after that, 0.090, 0.092, 0.048, consistently in the 0.0s. This is looking like a dialed-in Epos that we're actually facing with, and that the opponents are being faced with here on this lower bracket match as we go on to Chiaroscuro.
I think this just becomes a case of I'm not locked in here with you, you're locked in here with me, and Epos is that guy. So it becomes a 3-man battle for second if Epos is able to keep this up. Of course, I'm not saying that he is a guaranteed to go through to the next round, but we have to, keep in mind that his track record, I mean, we're talking a 2-time XP Evo champion, incredible resume when it comes to competitive Trackmania, and that's a lot to go up against, especially for some of these guys.
Exactly. As we go on to Chiaroscuro for the first round. Yeah, just to go for the attention, you said you're not locked. They're not locked in with me. You're not locked. I'm not locked in with you. You're locked in with me. I feel like if there's a theme song that goes in at this point of the match, I feel like it will be. I don't know if you know that, but there's the Pluck Boss theme, which is arguably one of the hardest themes of the SNES. I feel like we will go perfect with this when Epos just starts ripping through the field and actually going round after round after round and stout time after stout time. As we go into round number 1 here on Chiaroscuro, Epos already sprinting ahead after the end of Sector 1 by a 10th.5 from the rest of the field. It will be McQuattro and Paul locked in battle for second position. Jadon a bit too far behind in 4th place, 3 tenths down. As we go into checkpoint 7, the end of sector number 2, it will be a 2-tenth lead now for Epos. I'm kind of curious to see what the stopwatch will be looking like. Maybe a 0.4 or even a 0.3 could be on the cards right out of the gates. Here on Chiaroscuro, he goes wide, almost hits the outside wall with the right front, manages to keep it off the wall. What does the stopwatch say for Epos as he crosses the line to take a 10-pointer? McQuattro in second. It will be a 0.5, maybe a little bit deceptive at first, but still a stout time to take a look at nonetheless. Paul in third, Jadon down to 4th.
Great round for everybody. No mistakes there. There was, I believe, a swap of Paul and Jadon there towards the middle, so it's unfortunate, but it's, that's just the nature of racing. That's the nature of Trackmania. But into round number 2, we'll see where Epos is able to gain all that speed, because he built that gap almost immediately as if nobody else was racing. And I think this might be where it is, because he's taking some slightly different lines. There's a bit of a wider entry for a more straighter exit, try and get a little bit more of that speed. But McQuattro's coming back. Same with Paul now, the Portuguese driver, getting into the mix, but Epos sweeping around and getting right back into the fight. Jadon having to say for right now that he's stuck in third. McQuattro, I think, having to release or something, because he's back quarter second. Very uncharacteristic for the Finn. But Paul really bringing the fight to Epos as we get this drift on the uphill left. Epos, beautiful double apex there. Gets the overtake, but I think he has slightly less speed. Oh, Paul's transition onto that sausage, though, was going to lose him some time, and he almost hits the pole, almost hits the wall. We're going through the tightening sections, but Paul's got the inside line. Does he have speed into the finish? He goes low, and he will get it. 200ths of a second. The Portuguese driver takes one off the champ, and that's going to be his first 10 points of this turn, or this competition. My God, what an end.
Talk about putting it all on the racetrack and leaving nothing left to the opposition, not leaving an inch of room on the racetrack. I thought for sure, at 2 points in the final sector, I thought for sure he was going to hit the wall, either with the right front or the left front. There was no two ways about it, and somehow he managed to pass his way through like a wizard to actually stick it all the way to the end and actually snipe Epos. Early on in this third round, we do see Jadon falling 1.7 seconds down. He almost came to a stop before checkpoint number 1. The Brit is out of competition. It will be Paul at the end of Sector 1, leading the way by 700ths of a second from Epos, with Miquatro in third, and it will be a touch from Epos, a very uncharacteristic one at that, on the way towards checkpoint 6, which is going to promote Miquatro up into second position. Epos will still be locked in third as Jadon is way too far back, but Paul from Portugal looking to get some very solid points in and get back in the fight for potential second place. Miquatro getting the job really easy for Paul, giving the job that is making... I can't even get the words right, but you get what I mean. The job for Paul is now a lot easier with that crash from Miquatro mid-round, and it will be Paul with yet another 10-pointer, back-to-back 10-pointers for the Portuguese driver, and it will be a .858, 6/10 clear of Epos with a very, as we said, uncharacteristic mistake midway through the round.
That was surprising. Paul's starting to get in his element a little bit. I mean, his time, it's a 1 minute .8, so it's not as fast as we've seen, of course, and obviously with Azox's world record of a 1 minute 1. It's, you know, Epos was dropping a 1 minute 6 and then a 1 minute 5, or .6 and .5 those last 2 rounds. So Paul isn't entirely out of the woods just yet. He knows that Epos is an incredibly dangerous, incredibly consistent driver, and we've seen that just throughout the competition. We do have Miquatro with that early touch, so that'll put him about half a second back. He's not entirely out of it, but of course, with a field like this, it's pretty difficult to actually get up and around anybody. But Paul, once again, leading the charge, just walking the 2 British drivers behind him. They can't really overcome anything. They're battling with each other. Now it's going to be about 600ths of a second between the 3 of them. Paul, again, that double apex goes beautifully for him. We'll see if the airtime is minimized, and I think it is. Epos coming in with a swiping line, but not enough for the overtake. Jadon starting to sense a little bit of fear here in Epos, and he does get the overtake. Will he have a speed with Paul? I don't think he will, but he will get that second place. 300ths of a second. Jadon starting to come alive here.
Jadon starting to come alive, but Paul with a solid points haul, 30 points in the last 3 rounds, and if you couple that with the third place, it's a 34 out of 40 haul here on this rotation of Chiaroscuro. It is a very, very solid points haul at this early stage of the game, also considering how Magneton went for him, where he was not really in the fight, not really in the thick of it. Here, he was able to really get his act together and actually get back in the fight as Epos passes the halfway mark towards final stages. Or are we back to 100 already? I've struggled to switch between winner and lower modes, and it's a little bit hard to keep tabs at times, but yeah. Epos with 62, Paul with 49 is definitely back in the hunt, and Miquatro, having suffered some really, really unfortunate rounds towards the tail end of Chiaroscuro, is going to be looking back to get on the upswing here on Surfside.
Yeah, so it is 120, just to confirm. I did check. You know, it's interesting. When we were in our analyst panel before this, do you know one person we didn't mention as possibly going through to the next round, G-Geek?
Talking about this match or the other matches?
This match. No, this match. This match.
I think
one
Paul
person
really
we did not mention. Yep, it was Paul. Nobody predicted Paul. And right now he's only running in second right now. He's 9 points clear of Miquatro, but that's surprising because you and I said Epos and Miquatro. And I believe Twiggy did as well. And then Max said Epos and Jadon. I think that was more of a meme
Max
pick.
had the pocket pick. Max had the pocket pick and then turns coats at the last second. Shaking my damn head as we do see Epos with a very hefty crash there on the first round of Surfside, leaving Miquatro, Paul, and Jadon to duke it out for the big point, and it will be currently Miquatro leading, but Paul continuing to be snapping at his heels and going ghost within ghost, 7 milliseconds at checkpoint 11, and it's a huge clip on the inside with the left side of the car for Miquatro, dropping him down to third, promoting Paul in the lead, but now Paul has to fend off the attack of Jadon into the risky fin at the stripe, and it will be Paul completely flunking the entry into the risky fin, crashing into the side of the block, and will throw that 10-pointer away and only salvage 3. Such a shame to have had the round in the hands. And much like we saw Neuro earlier on in the day, he has thrown that 10-pointer in the bin.
I can't say I'm too surprised, though, with that risky. It's deceptively difficult. It seems like it's just that simple, you drop down into the finish and, whoa, look at that, you made it. But it's such fine margins that these guys are running on that they're pushing everything they can to maximize just how much speed they're getting out of it. And you can see Paul there almost clipping the pole there. So that's probably an indication of such commitments. But right now it is Epos running away with this, kind of leaving Jadon and Paul to fight over second. And Miquatro's in there, but he's not close enough. He's actually losing time right now on the Portuguese and the British driver, so he might be relegated to 4th right now. Epos, not much to worry about last round, though. He was in a lot of strife early on, but Paul and Jadon doing well for themselves. Miquatro's giving us a great overview of just how these gaps look, and as we go into the finish, it is going to go a lot better for everybody. Almost, I think somebody almost clipped there, but 0.5 of a second, everybody having a much cleaner round.
0.065, the time from Epos, within 0.2 of his own world record. That's really the most impressive thing for me, beyond the snipe from Jadon on Paul. I mean, don't get me wrong, that was a stout thing too, but 0.065, that is such a sight to behold. As we go into round number 3 out of 4 on this rotation of Surfside, and we do see a very big clip from Epos, and it does seem to be a bit more of a seesaw map in terms of points progression for the current match leader at the moment. Paul promoted in the lead, Miquatro locking horns with the Portuguese driver for the benefit of said lead. Jadon a little bit further behind in P3, looking to get back amongst the fight for that 10-pointer. Going on to checkpoint 9, the start of sector number 3. Paul still holding onto the lead. Miquatro now seeing Jadon snapping back to within his back bumper. As we go to checkpoint 11, it's going to be Jadon going a little bit further towards the outside. That's a bit of a risky approach, makes it work. Paul now getting overhauled by Miquatro for the lead. Jadon also looking to have a word in. It's going to be down at the stripe, and it will be Miquatro holding on by 14 milliseconds and getting the 10-pointer for himself, just keeping himself alive in the battle for second against Paul. Jadon in 3rd, and Epos with that unfortunate mistake before checkpoint 4 down the last place.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter for Epos. He already had a 20-point lead going into that last round, so he can kind of afford to maybe have a bad round or even a bad map, such as with Surfside. I mean, he got, what was that? He got 3rd, and then he got a 1st, and then he got a 4th. So if anything, he has to get a 2nd now to kind of round out the point split. But this might be just a throwaway map for him. Those first 2 maps have gone so well that I don't think he's all that worried. I mean, yes, Paul is looking rapid right now as he is battling for that P1 much tighter inside the line, but I don't think he got the speed that he wanted on exit. No, he didn't. That is going to grow that gap just a little bit, another 10th here for the Portuguese driver to overcome, but a wider entrance, and Epos again, another clip for him, puts him down into 4th, and Paul up alone by himself. 10 points is gonna look so bad because it goes to his opponent Miquatro as the Portuguese driver completely face plants into the finish. What could have been 10 has just become 3. Not how you want to end that round.
And with that, we've got probably the second lowest success rate in terms of risky finish. Neuro still holds the proverbial crown that nobody wants with just a 25% success rate after the first 4 rounds. Paul down at 50%. And on both occasions, it was in the rounds where he was actually leading. Such a shame to see that happen. And the main beneficiary for that is going to be Miquatro, who's going to be surging back to second with a 4-point lead.
I know, and I think it's just maybe there's a little bit of pressure there when you get towards the end. I don't know if they're playing with HUD on, cars on. I know that if I play literally anything, it's cars off, HUD off. I'm total tryhard mode. But sometimes in competitions like this, you see how little these gaps are, and you see how much track you have left to go, and sometimes you don't really think about it, or maybe you overthink it. I've been there. I'll overthink a corner and completely miss it. So, you know, hopefully for Paul, that's just a one-time thing as we head back around. So we'll see if Paul can recover.
Yeah, we'll see if Paul can recover and actually right the wrongs of the first rotation of Magneton, but it doesn't start under the best of auspices with that little clip at checkpoint number 1, which is going to be dropping the Portuguese driver down to last place, 7/10 down compared to the leading duo of Epos and miQuatro. Jadon getting left a little bit behind in P3, 2/10 down. Epos pushing it really hard through checkpoints 4 through to 5 as we go on to checkpoint 6 in the start of sector number 3. Look at the attack from Epos and Jadon. First and second, Jadon forced to lift a little bit and correct the trajectory before to jump into checkpoint 7. And we do see miQuatro as well, forcing himself to slow down before the bridge. And it will be a Team GV1-2 with Epos firmly in the lead, 3/10 clear of Jadon, and we are going to be watching what the stopwatch says for Epos as he clears the final corner, jumps into the finish. The stopwatch will be locking in at the .107 at the very end of it, maybe lifting a little bit more on the way into the final sets of corners just to give himself a little bit of margin. Jadon in second, miQuatro third, Paul in fourth, and Epos is 3/4 of the way towards finalist.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the last time we were here on Magneton. It was Epos getting 36 points out of this, and he's already off to a great start. He's got that 10-pointer, so there is a possibility if he repeats his success, he would be at not quite. I think he'd be at 118 if my math is to be believed. But this is a much more in-form Epos that we are used to. And then you've got miQuatro, who's barely holding on to that second place. We thought it would have been a little bit easier for him, but that's proven to be quite the opposite as Paul and Jadon slowly kind of pulling in on him. But right now, it is that British 1-2 once again. Epos, slightly more speed on exit, same with miQuatro. Inside lines, going to see them with a little bit more exit speed, slightly straighter lines, but Epos gets the better of it. Into the last few drifts we go. We have seen the different lines here, and it will be Epos getting that through. Does miQuatro have enough to stay ahead of Jadon? Yes, he does, by 0.08 of a second. And Paul only 3.5. So it's not so far gone for Paul. He's still very much in this. I mean, he's only 2 points ahead of Jadon now, but still 8 within miQuatro.
Yeah, and actually 10 points between second and fourth, so it's still very much all to play for in the last spot for survival here in the lower bracket of the Trackmania Games Tech Solo Tournament as we go on to round number 3 out of 4 here on the second rotation of Magneton. And Epos managing to stay ahead of miQuatro, not by 800s, but by 600s of a second. 62 milliseconds was the margin of victory between first and second in the previous round. And miQuatro looking to flip the script and actually go ahead of Epos as he tries to make the move stick into checkpoints 5 and 6. It looks as though all 4 are regrouped within a tent, and it will be actually Epos down in last place, a little bit on the back foot, trying to mount a fight back through the third and final sector. Over the bridge we go. Jadon, miQuatro going a little bit more for a tighter line, but that has compromised his line for checkpoint 8 afterwards. Jadon terrages into the lead. Paul in second, Jadon going way too wide. It's now down to a 3-man fight between miQuatro, Paul, and Epos. Who's going to get ahead? No. It's not going to be Epos who crashes on the outside wall, and miQuatro gets the 10-pointer. He's so sought after. .243, a 10th and a half ahead of Paul, who gets some valuable points as well, but we'll see miQuatro slowly but surely sprints away in second place, and Epos will only get a meager 3 points compared to what he's hauled so far.
Everybody was risking at the end. You saw the desperation. I mean, Jadon was out of it before we even got to that critical tight drift section. So these players are pushing themselves. We are getting towards the end of the match. They know that finalist status is looming, especially for Epos. But things cannot get any easier with TM games, let me tell you. And miQuatro finding that out very well as he puts himself into 4th position. And once again, it is Epos and Jadon leading it up front ahead of Paul.
Going into Sector 2 and Sector 3, Epos with a 1.5 advantage, almost 2 tenths now over the nearest competitor, which in this case will be Jadon. Paul following in hot pursuit of Jadon as he goes for a very tight line before checkpoint 8. Neatly done by the Portuguese driver, who's going to be moving temporarily into second place ahead of Jadon as we go into the final corner. Epos does not clip the wall. I thought he might, but Perspective kind of putting a number on me, and he will dip into the 54s at the final round of this rotation with a .998. Jadon in second, Paul in third, miQuatro down to fourth, so it's still not over just yet in the battle for second place. 116 for Epos, 92 for miQuatro, 81 for Paul, 79 for Jadon. miQuatro still has a little bit of a margin or bit of a cushion, but it can very much get annihilated at any point as we go back onto Chiaroscuro.
I know, with how tight everybody's running, just looking at the scores, I mean, Epos is kind of out of here and done with it. He is absolutely going to be getting finalist mode on this map. It's just a question of how quickly does he get it and how quickly can he convert that into a first place to move on to the next round. But after he's gone, that just leaves Jadon, MiQuattro, and Paul to fight it out. That 3 points is taken off the table. How does that shake it up? I mean, you look at how their performance has been thus far, and you look at where the majority of the 10 points have gone. Now that Epos would be out of the equation, following, of course, the proper turn of events, how does that shake things up? Does that give, Paul a bit of extra momentum to get ahead? Does that make Jadon turn up and maybe get a couple of extra spots to move to the next round? I'm not 100%, but we'll have to find out.
We'll have to find out as the map gets underway. And let me put it this way. If you weren't with us a little bit earlier on, first preparation of Chiaroscuro, 3 out of 4 round wins were from Paul. They were snipes. There were a couple of snipes in there, sure. But Paul can definitely show up on this map and actually climb the 11-point deficit that he has to MiQuattro back up. As we go on to checkpoint number 4 at the end of sector number 1. All 3 regrouped within less than a tenth. And MiQuattro, the first one, on the way back, and he will be down in last place, half a second down. That is a very, very big mistake, and maybe a bit of a sounding of the alarm there for the Finn, who is going to find himself under very, very big pressure and in hot water as we go on to sector number 3. Epos leading Jadon and Paul in hot pursuit in second and third as we go onto the ramp transition. Are there going to be any mistakes? No, everybody makes it through clean. Epos still leading by a tenth. Before we go onto the penultimate corner and then the final corner, who is going to try to go as tight as possible? It looks as though Paul wanted to go in there but hesitated and had to back off, and it will be Epos getting the 10-pointer and confirming his finalist status with a .699. Jadon second, Paul third, MiQuattro down to fourth.
Yep, so Epos, one more round to get it done, but look at that, second to fourth separated by 10 points. It's MiQuattro, the beneficiary, with 95. Jadon and Paul, though, 85 points apiece on this second cycle. Paul, of course, getting that third place. Jadon was second, and MiQuattro with third. So keeping things interesting here, but Epos, first time around on this finalist status. One mistake is going to put him out of the round. That is just the nature of this field. And as Paul goes into the lead, Epos fights back. So does MiQuattro. And Jadon just peeking into frame there as we keep going here. The right-hander drift. It's got to stick to that inside line. That's the route. And Paul comes out the other end ahead, dipping down. We are getting into that third sector. MiQuattro trying to get ahead of Paul. The ramp transition coming up goes well, minimizing that airtime. Paul does it beautifully. Epos very close to the apex. He does pull in a little bit on the Portuguese driver, and that exit's going to give him a little bit more speed. We're going to go up the hill. Epos has the overtake, but Paul jumps low, but it's a little too low as he crashes right into the finish line. Epos will be done and dusted here. He will move on to the next round. MiQuattro gets a free second, Jadon a third. I think Paul was a little surprised because he didn't respawn right away, but Epos, he is out of here. He is done. MiQuattro now in the lead points-wise with 101, but terrible way to end the round for Paul.
Terrible way to end the round, and this may be the starting point where everything starts to unravel for the Portuguese driver. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this may be the point where you start to tell a little bit. He knows he only has 2 rounds, including this one, to actually make something happen on Chiaroscuro, knowing that he has to face Surfside, the map where he only had a 50% success rate in passing the risky Finn, and where he wasted so many valuable points. As we go on to sector number 2, checkpoint 5 and 6, it will be MiQuattro, Paul, and Jadon in a tightly knit group. 19 milliseconds between first and third. Checkpoint 7, Paul versus Jadon. MiQuattro falling in the background by about a tenth and a half. Paul emerging in the lead ahead of Jadon, going into the ramp transition. Still the Portuguese driver ahead of the Brit as we go into the final sets of corners. Can Jadon pull something together? Can he try to pull some magic here? Paul still in the lead, going into the final corner. A bit more speed on the entry for Jadon. It's going to be at the stripe that it gets played, and unfortunately for Jadon, we go too high, too early. The top of the risky Finn. Paul takes advantage of the situation to get the 10-pointer with a .689. Jadon second, MiQuattro down the third. Is going to be feeling the pressure any moment.
I was almost expecting Paul to hit the finish again. That would have been the third time in this match that he has crashed the risky finish in such a way. But of course, things have gone a little bit better since last time. But yeah, MiQuattro's feeling the pressure. He's only got, 7 points. So at least with this round, if he gets last and say Paul gets first, it's not the end of the world. He's not gonna lose that that advantage. I think he'll only be up by a single point, and right now it's looking like it's possible, although he is fighting back, trying to keep things close, and less than 0.03 of a second separate all three of these drivers, Mi Quattro and Paul, driving pretty much the exact same line. Jadon kind of stuck playing spectator, but Paul, that inside double apex has been his bread and butter here. It is ridiculous the number of rounds he's able to pull that off in a row perfectly. Mi Quattro coming back, an earlier drift for him is going to give him a little bit more speed on the left-hander. We're going up into the finish. Who's it going to be? It is going to be Mi Quattro, 0.03 of a second, and Paul once again denied. 10 points here. Mi Quattro, everything he can to get this Portuguese driver away from him, to get the British driver away from him. 5 points for the Finn is all he's going to need to get on to finalist. So he's got to get first or he's got to get second, G-Geek.
And I gotta say, you were pointing out that double apex left-hander before checkpoint number 8, and I gotta agree with you. That was pure poetry in motion right there from Paul, who was able to nail the apexes so beautifully to be able to emerge ahead. But then also equally great was the Finn from Mi Quattro, who managed to attack just at the right moment in the negative camber left-hander before the attack of the finish and carry so much more speed on the way through. Maybe not that much visually, but a couple of Ks is enough to make a very big difference here on the finish of Chiaroscuro, and he was able to follow through and go all the way to the finish and snipe that 10-pointer away from Paul as we circle back to Surfside, a map that Paul does not really carry that high into his heart, let's face it.
Yeah, this has been his sort of kryptonite here, Surfside, and of course we think back to the last time we were here, and he did have that first finish line crash, so he's going to try and make amends for that. Maybe he's got the nerves shaken off here. You know, the first time you go through a map, it's always a bit tricky, although it seems as though the struggles continue as he clips the pole. We've seen so many drivers clip that exact same pole today, so I'm not too surprised, especially at this stage of competition, how close things have gotten and just how desperate some of these players are getting, as Mi Quattro almost grabbing the wall there. Jadon, though, is able to just walk into the lead. He's got just about a 10th ahead of the finished driver, but Mi Quattro starting to come back a little bit. He's got some narrower lines, which is going to close up that gap a little bit. 500s, Mi Quattro, that transition gives him a lot more speed into this final drift. Mi Quattro's going to go low into the inside, and it will benefit him beautifully. 100th of a second between himself and Jadon. Mi Quattro on to finalist. Jadon at 105 and Paul at 108. G-Geek, is this potentially the end? Is this going to be the last round?
This is going to be the map for Mi Quattro to lose, with everything to lose at this point here on the second round of Surfside. First finalist attempt for the Finn to guarantee his way through to the next phase of the Tech Solo Tournament and the next week of competition in the Tech Solo Tournament here at the Trackmania Games. Paul will have to put it all on the line and go back-to-back wins, or help for a little bit, pray for a little bit of help from Jadon to try and get some of that point deficit back. But right now, it is Mi Quattro in control at the end of sector number 1, looking to try and pull away from Paul, but Paul is saying, not so fast. I'm still in it to win it. I'm still in it to put some pressure on you and actually make your life a little bit more difficult. And he does so by snatching the lead away from Mi Quattro, who completely crumbles and hits very heavily into checkpoint number 9. So it's now the opportunity for Paul to move up to 118. Jadon is down to second place, 2/10 off. Now, the big question mark, will he be able to pass the risky Finn? The answer is yes this time around. With a .328, a 10th ahead of Jadon, and as predicted, we'll move up to 118. 1 down, 2 to go for the Portuguese driver.
Yeah, but that was born from Mi Quattro's desperation. You saw how much he was willing to risk. He just left the racing surface and crashed, so it put him out of this round. So another attempt for the Finnish driver to try and close things out. Got to get that first place to lock himself into the next round. But Jadon and Paul have been putting up one hell of an argument over why they should be moving through to the next round of this loser bracket. And Mi Quattro with another clip on the inside. Paul pulling ahead. Could this be finalists? Could we see triple finalists, G-Geek? What do you think?
this might be likely to happen because Jadon is definitely continuing to give Paul a hard time so far in the middle sector. The question is, can he keep it together in the final sector where Paul seemed to have had the pocket over the man from Team GB, and we do see the Portuguese driver trying to mount a fight back, but had a bit of a heavy set landing, and a huge crash from Jadon completely throws the chance of a triple finalist away. Paul will make it 2 for 2, or 3 for 3, I should say, in this rotation for the Risky Finn. A much better success rate in passing compared to the first rotation. And with that, we have a face-off between Finland and Portugal to have one of their players through to the next phase of the tech tournament. Legion.
I think Jadon just got a no slide at the end. It looked like he tried to drift. You saw the skid marks, but the game just not letting him. I think his landing might have done him in. Quattro, the early touch, could that be it? It's all on Paul now. Jadon, he wants to play spoils. If he did, we would have to go all the way back to Magneton once again, and what a final that would be. But right now it is Portugal leading the way from Great Britain. Could we see Jadon upset Portuguese driver Paul and give us one more round? But this has been Paul's map, it seems like, as we get into the final sector. Jadon going wide as he can, carrying as much speed. He's got to get a little extra brake tap there to make the corner, but as we are getting into this final sector, it's an inside line for Jadon, but Paul's got the exit. We're moving on up. This is the spot where Jadon crashed. We are into this last drift, into the last turn. Paul's going so on the inside, and he is going to get it, and Paul goes through to the next round. Quattro could not overcome the pressure, and he will fall. And Jadon, sadly, he does get that finalist status, but it's not going to mean anything. Epos and Paul. Unbelievable. Not a single one of us on the desk said Paul was going to be a factor at all. We said it was going to be Epos and Quattro, or Epos and Jadon. But we're all wrong. We got one of them right. We got Epos.
Yeah, we were half right. We were half right. So let's not beat ourselves too much over it. But I gotta say, Paul really came through and delivered the ghost, even though it was a pretty painful road to get there. But perhaps even more painful is for Quattro to get eliminated that way. The pressure of winning, the fear of winning kind of like setting in his head, and just was not able to conclude, and that's what makes Cup Mode the way that it is. It's one thing to get up to finalist status, but winning in finalist status is quite another. And I am afraid that with the elimination of Quattro, it might soon be curtains for an entire nation outright, because just looking at some of the round results, some of the rounds from the other games that are currently ongoing, there is Tatu, who's at risk of being eliminated. He's has a Shanimin finalist. Flyer has already concluded his match as well. It looks as though it might be looking like a very grim outcome for Team Finland, as a matter of fact. And I wonder if we're going to be able to bring our panel back in, or if we're going to be able to bring Twiggy back in to actually discuss what we've seen in the Quattro game, along with Jadon and Epos, and of course Paul, who managed to get through really if we were able to get some insight there. I didn't exactly hear what production was saying, but I'll let you take over, Legion, whilst I try to hear what I was being told in my ear.
Just looking at, I mean, yeah, for Quattro, that is absolutely horrific. You know, you're getting to that finalist. It's so much pressure, especially at this point where I'm assuming they've probably figured out that we might be watching them. So you have all those eyes. I mean, looking at Twitch chat, of course, and how many people are watching. That's a lot of eyes. That's at least 3 eyes on you, which for me is a lot of eyes to be looking at you. But hopefully Finland is able to stay in this competition. I am looking at it as well. Tatu's gone. That's it. Finland's out. Finland is out.
Finland's out. And yeah, at least one of 2 Team TV players in the lower bracket is still in, and that might be rejoicing our fellow colleague Twiggy, who is with us and who's going to be with us in just a few moments. There he is. And yeah, almost as we expected, but Paul really giving Quattro a run for his money, and Quattro just not being able to deliver, as we said.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is the way it is. We've seen that so much today, is double finalist, triple finalist kind of situations where players have either really pushed people to their limits or actually been able to overtake them in that finalist zone. And that is what it comes down to. It's so much more heartbreaking when it's in the lower bracket, but regardless, really good performance there, and keeping the dreams of Portugal alive, who they have been scrounging for points over the course of the whole event, the whole of the Trackmania games is what I mean. So that will be very good for them, making it into the top 8 now, I believe. So I mean, the top 16, right? 8 in each bracket, and we can actually take a look at the bracket now as well. This is everybody remaining here this is just the lower bracket, but everybody remaining in the lower bracket here, and that is unfortunate for Portugal having two players in one game.
Wow.
But I mean, I have faith. I mean, Paul's been turning up. We saw it, of course, in this match, and it was difficult. Don't get me wrong; it was not easy by any stretch. But I think he's going to be riding that momentum. We've talked about it a lot over the course of this entire sort of event. Is that Trackmania does sort of become that momentum game? Is when you're feeling good and you're in the zone and you're getting these great results. It's kind of hard to knock you off of that unless you do it yourself. So I feel like Paul does have a very good chance. We saw Maui getting lucky with the matchup, knocking out both of the Belgian drivers of Trolls and Scrappy, so he might be feeling good as well. And looking at everything else, I mean, look at Zykos. He barely made it out of that group, barely made it out with Narovsky, Jussi, and Wizzy, and then Flyer, where is he? I mean, he was a bit more comfortable, so I think we could see at least one of the Portuguese drivers going forward, but then who the other driver is that goes through, I don't know. It could be Maui, it could be Zykos, who knows? Or sorry, not Zykos, it could be Flyer. But then look down at that other round, that other bracket. You have, what was that? Epos. I saw Epos in there. I saw Sweden Shay. Oh my God.
Shay and Jussi.
Yeah.
Arguably, I'm gonna be real. That first match is probably the one that's gonna be the most interesting. Maui, Paul, the Portuguese are like, no way this is happening. Zykos, never count him out. Flyer, don't count him out either. This is gonna be one hell of a matchup in the lower bracket for sure.
I'm ready for it.
I mean, that is obviously the lower bracket there. We also have 8 more players in the upper bracket, mostly Germans. Let's be realistic here. Mostly Germans, a couple of French people. We got one Brit left remaining up here as well, and Loso, of course.
And a Slovakian.
Don't exactly.
count out my boys.
Look, Loso is Loso. Loso is just doing Loso things up there. I mean, this is one of the favorites to win the whole tournament, and up against the big 3 in the upper bracket now. Definitely has the odds stacked against you. This is, well, I mean, in the upper bracket now, we do just have, the top 8. Obviously, that is how it works. But yeah, it's really starting to get to a head here now. And you start to realize very quickly how many players you consider finalists in the whole 128 we started with. There are many good players here, G-Geek. And, well, who are you thinking is God, I mean, out of both of those games, your favorite?
Honestly, this is a bit tough to choose. I mean,
Yeah.
Pauvre Vortex. I'm sorry, I have to circle back to my native language, because you just look at the lineup, you're thinking, man, he got done dirty. He got done hella dirty. You can't fight up against that. You can fight up against Barbos, Ratchet, Shark, also looking to cause some trouble. For as much as I want to believe in Vortex, this is going to be one hell of a matchup to try and fight up against. But of course, I want to gravitate more towards the other semifinal because, well, more nationality representation, of course, but also the caliber of players. Loso doing Loso things, as you said. Pack being Pack, just saying that. Azox being an absolutely stout player, and Feed doing Feed things. So honestly, I feel like this second semifinal is going to be also very... Every single match that's going to be remaining here in the top 16 is pretty much an unmissable one. An unmissable one. Whether it is on the main cast, depending on which match you actually pick, or on the Nations POV for those that actually happen to cover the other games. There's absolutely nothing to throw in the trash there. It's premium quality Trackmania there.
All right, well, that is it for Tech Solo for today. We will be back with more Tech Solo later on, but after the break, we're going to be heading to RPG and then Ice, I believe, after that as well. I do believe we're saying goodbye to you, G-Geek, for the day, so I will, I'll say goodbye to you now. But yeah, we will have an extended break. We've been going for 6 hours. Obviously, everybody behind the scenes needs a little bit of time to get ready for what we've got coming up next, but it's going to be just as exciting, so don't go anywhere. If you're a fan of Trackmania, you're gonna love it regardless.